I'm just so interested because it's so unnatural for me.
Yeah.
It's so much more natural to imagine and to make, to have an open-ended possibility of infinite creativity, and then form some abstraction, make it my own myth, and then becomes reality for a time. And then there's like flow between like fact and fiction and the abstract. Like it's like all like, you know.
I know.
But like to be stuck in one of them, anyway, I'm curious about the rigidity and like the need for that.
I got called up short in a discussion like this I had about 2 months ago. I was talking about a continuum of experience, and he said, no, it's not a continuum. He said there's points. He said even your concept that it's a continuum from one scale to another, and then there's stuff in between, sort of like a blending, is inaccurate, because that restricts us to this continuum. And he said, we're here and here and here and here, but it's not. A continuum is just a way of sort of making the dominant narrative more elastic.
Like a line.
Yeah, we're just making it longer instead of, two points or two sides of a coin. We're just sort of stretching the coin out into a long tube,
It's a lot easier for me to think of continua than of something totally abstract. Maybe in a sense, abstraction kind of makes me a little afraid.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's gonna get like dogs fighting for a bone. But see, the abstraction is that if you say that you're genderqueer, and you know what I mean, I'm not forced. It's my choice to accept that or to fight it. But if I accept it, then I'm challenged to see not the abstraction, but like the true, unique individual soul. There's like a uniqueness of your specific being, your specific incarnation that I'm interacting with, not all these cues.
Right, and that's one of the things that I really like about it and about the way we interact, which I don't find even in the genderqueer community a lot. I mean, what I was thinking of getting to initially, which I didn't mention, was how disappointed I have been in what I call the mainstream queer community. Because when I first became queer, I thought, wow, I can expand. And I looked all around me, and I'm like, these people are just as limited as straight culture, and they, we've discussed this in the Radical Fairy community, it's like, there's a perfect opportunity by being on the outside to create our own reality. Why in the fuck are we just taking mainstream's reality? It's like, see, we're really the same. Well, no, fuck, I don't want to be the same. Otherwise, I wouldn't be queer. And even in the genderqueer community, to some extent, there's these norms that I feel like I can't challenge because...
Like what? I want to know.
I come up with like 5 right off the bat.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. My question was, okay, so what's queer?
Why the rare friendships I have where we can just interact as whatever we happen to be at the moment and not have to fit into something are like living in a different world to me. And this goes back to what I was talking about, different communities, each, including the genderqueer one, each seeming to have their norms that I just feel I'm always fighting. And like one of the ones I was thinking of, since you asked for specifics, is like the whole fucking clothing thing. It's like, oh, well, you don't dress like a genderqueer.
What is that?
Well, you don't dress like a genderqueer.
What is that?
Fuck that. Is like the whole fucking clothing thing. It's like, oh, well, you don't dress like a genderqueer.
What is that?
Fuck that. How does that change who I am? How does that change who I am internally? And the whole pronoun shit, well, if you don't accept they as the appropriate pronoun, you're not really a genderqueer,
Remember when we went to that queer, but it was kind of like a genderqueerish, that event we went to, and everyone looked the same, all the transmasculine people, and I was one of them, and that was like even more embarrassing. Same hair, same gauge ears, chucks.
I know.
This is horrible.
And so that was like dressing me in drag, and that, like, even at that young age, that was not my
I wish
identity.
it was more of like a word like I've expanded or something, which sounds condescending, like I've expanded.
I can be 5 points at once.
And,
Yeah.
and the
There's
whole
a rule.
pronoun shit.
I can be 5 points at once.
Right.
I can hook on and hold on for a second, and then things shift. There are some things, certain things within, like, my reality that don't shift.
And the
There's a
whole
rule.
pronoun shit. And the
There's a
whole
rule.
I'm
pronoun shit.
not trapped in any. I can live like my male self, my male body.
There's a pronoun shit. Well, if you don't accept they as the appropriate pronoun, you're
there's
not
a look.
really a gender queer.
Now here is that I get the gender queer identification according to the transition which an individual has made.
Oh.
And so you get, I was a woman, now I'm a man. I was a man, now I'm a woman. I was, and that breaks down into about 5. And then there's almost a disparaging of people that are just simply gay because that's so mainstream and assimilated now.
I wish there was more of like a word like I've expanded or something, which sounds condescending, like I've expanded.
To my evolution.
Yeah.
But it's
the way
like
I
it's like
refer
the
to it.
Russian dolls rather than like I've transitioned from one to the other. But I used to be a girl, but now I'm a girl and
A jaguar. At the same time that I'm feminine, that at the same time I'm actually walking and I feel like a man. What is it that makes it feel right? I just feel like it's my, cosmic design.
My question was, okay, so what's queer?
What you started with particularly touches on something I had thought of earlier in the discussion about different identities at the same time, and my experience is somewhat different. And I often feel that I kind of have to show one of my identities, if you will, with one group and one with another, or I'm going to just spend my entire life trying to explain myself to everyone or trying to fight with them. And that's why having the kinds of interactions with people who truly are open to seeing me not as any box, but as whatever comes up at any time, is so different from my experience in virtually any community. Evolve, or to let my evolution thrive rather than to contain it, because I want to keep evolving and I want to be whatever I am at the moment. And I don't want to have to fit into any box. But on the other hand, I find myself constraining myself in all of the different communities, because I all have these damn norms. If you don't fit into, it's like, oh boy, you're not really one of us, and so you're one of them.
Yeah,
What
it's an
I
us and
refer
them.
to generally is the us versus them mentality, and that's a mentality that drives me stark raving
I
mad.
think porn has a lot of problems, but so, having said that, what I'm curious about is everybody else's thoughts on their sense of attraction, and how does that play into your identity, and does it break the rules? Does your sense of attraction break, the dominant rules as well as the rules for subcultures that you run into? One of the most frustrating experiences I've had is gay men. It's just like, so aggravating because of the expectations. I don't know, they're worse than hetero men.
I often refer to the gay community as a caricature of straight
the
values.
expectations.
but even more so.
Yeah, that's what I mean, a
Yeah,
caricature.
Yeah.
The rules are even worse.
Yeah.
And more strictly
They're more
enforced.
rigid.
Yeah.
As well as the expectations. But anyway, so let me set that aside, other than to say I was really surprised at what I didn't care for about that.
I'll be attracted to gay men. I'll be attracted to people who are androgynous. I'll be attracted to trans men, trans women. Like the whole, I didn't know. I didn't know. So just like interacting with all those different people, and being around it, it's like, oh, okay. And then you go into like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Am I bi? Am I what is that?
Yeah, the need to label.
Right?
The need to drop the labels to
Right?
do that. Like, well, how will the relationship, let's say we hit it off, how will the
Yes.
relationship proceed?
Yes.
To have to drop that and go, it'll proceed how it proceeds.
Right.
Everyone's unique, and so will that. Interacting with the individual as an individual. I did a piece on standards of beauty, and my conclusion was, with now that 7 billion unique individuals on Earth, there cannot be a standard of beauty. What we have is 7 billion unique individuals, so that uniqueness means that we can't be one of 2, one of 5, one of 10.
What are the roots of where we're coming from when we're talking about body or gender? It's like, because for me, and like you just said, inquiry is a way that you approach the world. It's pleasurable, it's what you do naturally, and yet for so many, like the dominant culture, imagining other possibilities, imagining other identities, or even making new ones up is not done, and it's not encouraged, and people feel safer in that boxed in, you only have 2 choices, or you only have whatever amount of choices. And I'm really curious about that experience, because I tend to avoid people who come from that paradigm, and many of them are in my own family as well. But we don't have the conversation, we just sort of tolerate one another. And I'm just so interested because it's so unnatural for me.
Yeah.
It's so much more natural to imagine and to have an open-ended possibility of infinite creativity, and then form some abstraction, make it my own myth, and then becomes reality for a time,